Here's JB. Just couldn't get through that one without laughing at my own joke. But hi folks, I'm JB, welcome to my channel. My day-to-day kind of allotment videos are very vloggy, but every now and then I like to dive into a specific topic, and today I'm going to be talking about how to repair a polytunnel. Now hopefully, if you're researching or if you've got a bit of damage on your polytunnel, it's nothing as severe as this. As you've seen, I can fit my head through this, and this has been attacked by a badger, probably, or maybe a fox, something has done it. Now polytunnels are quite vulnerable to damage from various creatures and wildlife. Across the pond, I think you've got things like raccoons. Hopefully you're not dealing with bears or anything like that, but in the UK, badgers are probably our biggest problem when it comes to these, and cats as well. Quite often if you've got a lot of cats, they like to come along and just have a scratch. Now this is where the most damage is, but in fact, just over the course of one night, all over the place, my tunnel has been kind of damaged. There's lots of small holes like this one just here, barely visible with the eye. But if you do get scratches, it's worth going over them with your fingers and feel whether or not the tunnel has been punctured and figure out whether or not maybe you need to do some more repairs. One thing that's good is this has highlighted just how strong polytunnel plastic is. Even just either side of it, this has still retained an awful lot of tension, which is really what you want from your skin. Now, what do you need? Well, you need a rag, some rubbing alcohol. You need some kind of cleaning agent, because when you repair these, they can get really gunky. They can fill up with algae and that kind of stuff. I recommend using repair tape from whoever sold you your polytunnel. So this is from First Tunnels, and it's kind of purpose made for this. There are alternatives that people use, kind of patching or gorilla tape, that kind of thing. I recommend using this just because it's been designed specially for it. So I'm going to be showing you how to use this, and it comes in various sizes, of course, as well. The repair tape goes both on the outside and the inside, and then it kind of seals to each other, forms a really nice, strong, watertight seal. What I'm going to do is start off by repairing some of the smaller holes. There's a couple up here, just so I can kind of get used to the feel of the tape, try and get used to the idea of tensioning it and that kind of stuff. So first, I'm going to give it a clean, and alcohol is really good because not only is it going to make sure there's no bacteria or anything, any algae that's going to grow underneath, but also it dries nice and quick. And what you do need to make sure, no dust, dirt, debris, and you need to make sure that it's dry so the tape is going to heal properly, seal properly. I'm making sure to clean really quite far either side, because first we're going to have to cut out a lot of the serrated stuff. It depends on the type of damage you've had and the size of your hole. So these small ones I don't really need to cut away on, but this big one I'm going to need to cut away to make sure that the area is easier for the tape to actually adhere to. And you're going to have to go either side quite far of the actual damage to get a nice amount of tension and a good seal. So when you're cleaning, don't just focus on the immediate area around the seal. Make sure you go nice and wide either side. Now once you know you've got a completely clean surface, firstly, the idea is that you go horizontally and then you'll do some vertical strips to keep it in place. One other tip as well is to not do this until you're completely ready. Don't use some small tape first, just go in with the tape that you know is going to be kind of final, because once this is on, that is it. That is tricky to get off. But once you've got your horizontal, then you can do some vertical to just give it that extra bit of rigidity. And obviously be very, very careful when you're working with scissors or sharp tools near the skin that is undamaged. And this doesn't actually have to go over the hole, the damaged hole. That's what the horizontal is for. This one is just to give that extra support to the horizontal tape. Ordinarily, you might continue this a little bit lower, but I'm stopping short because I need to deal with this next. You might wonder as well whether to start on the outside first or the inside. I'm starting on the outside just out of preference, because I feel like if you do it on the inside first and you've got sticky tape exposed to the wind, I feel like you're more likely to get stuff blowing in and just dirtying up that tape. Now this is the scary bit. This is where you have to try and make this edge a little bit straighter. You just want to get rid of all these little ridges which are going to interfere with the tape and make it more difficult to stick. Now, being very careful, this is very nerve-wracking. You have to kind of make it worse before you can make it better. I'm going pretty much as close to the damage as I can because I don't want to make it too much bigger. But just looking ahead to where you're going to run the scissors I'm scooping it out wide here because all of this is quite damaged as well, really scratched up, lots of small holes. Now here, we're just going to do the same thing again. I wanted to do this one first just to get a feel for the tape, but it's super simple. There's nothing too complicated. There's no real technique to it. It does just go on nice and simple, this repair tape. One thing is, like, make sure you're not putting it in the ground in like a dirty container like this, because the tape will really easily pick up a lot of that dirt and soil. So maybe a clean surface is best. Now for this one, I think it makes sense to start on the outside and start from the bottom, because if you think of it like tiles, you want this top layer, which is going to have all the rain running off it, to kind of have something on top of it. So the one up here is still, it's going to be somewhat exposed, but I think generally that is a good approach to take. So I'm going to come nice and wide, and I want the first one to kind of cover half of the hole and half of the tunnel skin, the extant skin. Once again, nice and wide to start. And I'm going to put as much tension on this as I can, as I then push it forward, trying to get as little air on here as possible. It's going to have trouble sticking along the top because where there's this big hole, there's a bit less tension. So that's just something to be aware of. Then the next one the same. Just going to layer it. It's about half on the tape, a little less than half. And always kind of pushing outwards so nothing gets trapped. Now, one thing I have got wrong slightly is the angle. I'm not quite straight on this, which is not an issue for the structure, but it is an issue for how it looks, the aesthetics. It will stand out a little bit more. You can see I've not gone completely straight across, I've gone up slightly. So that's just something to watch out for. So this is not my best work, but hopefully you can learn from my mistakes. One of the issues is a nice big air bubble in here because there's no tension around this. So it is quite difficult to get tension, and you've got to try and push it out as best you can, work it up, just get as good a seal as possible. You can just see along here, and I think that's just because I've not applied the pressure evenly. So once again, learn from my mistake. And then once you've got your horizontals, it's time for the verticals. Just going either side, nice even pressure downwards. The most important bit is probably when you first touch it down, because then you're kind of committed. That sets your angle down, so you've got to try and get it right first time. It's really easy, especially when you're doing long lengths like this. If it's just a few degrees off, then you're going to have a non-straight line, which does show up. I'm amazed at how strong this is now though. Now that this is sealed, it does feel really rigid, and I've not done the inside just yet. So the technique, I think, when you're putting the first point in, get your tension down, kind of set the rest in place, pull down on it, and then you can commit. You could, if you were really concerned when you're doing your verticals, go all the way along. I've not done that completely, but now it's time for the inside. This is the part where the tension and getting the precision is probably even more tricky, because all of this that's now exposed over the damaged part is extremely sticky. So I don't want to touch it and make it less sticky. And when I'm going over with the tape, I want to make sure that this part is air bubble free. I'm going to follow roughly the same patterns as before. Now, is this perfect? No, I think it's pretty far from it. I would rate myself maybe a 5 out of 10, but it is now airtight. It is hopefully watertight. This tape is rated to basically last as long as polytunnel skin. So once you've got it sealed on both the outside and the inside, it should be pretty good. I did let a little bit of dirt get in at the top here from when I put the tape down, and there are a few air bubbles and kinks. What I would say is that when you first stick the tape down, just commit to that line. So if you've started and you're lined like this, you've got the tape up here and you're at an angle, just go with it, because if you try and pull the tape down once you've already stuck here, that is what's going to create your air bubbles as you try and change direction. So I try to do that a little bit, and I think it's better to just have a slightly wonky line and just overlap it loads with the next one. And as you go down, overlap it more, because the more overlaps, the stronger it is. And This does feel good. It's very reassuring to have this done. I'd rate this maybe a 5 out of 10, but hopefully you've learnt from my mistakes. If you have learnt anything, or if you've just had a laugh at what a bodge job I've done, please do consider liking and subscribing if you want to see more videos from my allotment. Thank you ever so much for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed this and found it useful. An extra special thank you to all of my Chili Pepper tier patrons who make these videos possible. Tony, Bill, Pam, Louise, Mel, Michael, Denise, Socks in the Garden, and Andrew. You are stars. Hopefully I'll see you again in the next one.